Maryland just had its first key loss in a while.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, new potential hires can feel like high-stakes wagers for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. Maryland football has a couple of key players, or one key player, I should say, enter the portal for Maryland football. So you guys have known that it's been a pretty quiet time in terms of Maryland using the portal, as well as people leaving the Terps program, which is kind of unusual in today's college football. Usually it seems like a lot of these teams have a ton of different players coming in and coming out, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on for the transfer portal for all these different teams in college football, because that's the new age of college football. You're going to use the portal, people are going to leave, and all those kind of things. But since the spring football has come around for Maryland football, and now we're into summer ball and those summer workouts, Maryland football hasn't really lost anybody in the transfer portal. And so we've been kind of lucky enough to not lose anybody, but it's also allowed us to not really have to add anybody as well, because there's not very many spots open. I guess Coach Loxley felt pretty confident in the roster, so we didn't add very many people in the spring transfer portal time. But Maryland football has kind of an unexpected loss that came in the last couple of days in Fa'Najae Gotay deciding to transfer from Maryland. And I have a couple of different things to say about this, a couple of different takes. First of all, I think it hurts the Terps, but I don't think it kills us. I think we're okay without Goate, but I do think it hurts us in a couple of different ways. Fa'Najae Gotay, the linebacker, was a pretty good player for Maryland. I think it was fair to say he was a good player. I wouldn't say that he was anything crazy. I wouldn't say he was like an insane type of guy. I wouldn't say he's like one of the best in the Big Ten, or even, I don't know if he's a top 2 linebacker on our own team. But he was a good player for the Terps and had a couple of years of just being good, solid linebacker play. Last year, 44 total tackles for us, had a pass deflection, also had an interception. And that's with playing rotational minutes. Maryland likes to play a lot of different guys in that room. They like to play different players. And so he's not playing like the entire game at linebacker, or the numbers would have been better. The starters were usually Barham and Hippolyte, but Wheatland and Goate would get their go at it as well. But I think you got to start by saying that it's definitely a loss, but I don't think that it's going to kill us. I think he was a good player. Like I said, good production overall, but he wasn't somebody that was like, it's not like the Jayshon Barham loss where it's like, oh, he might have been our best pass rusher. He was also probably our best inside linebacker. He's making plays all over the field, and we lose his playmaking. Goate was more of a just solid player for us that knew where to be, knew the defense, knew the right spots to be, was able to stop the run play, and was just an experienced player. That's one of the biggest loss about losing Goate. Goate was experienced. He had been in College Park for a long time now and has been playing meaningful snaps for a while. So losing his experience definitely hurts for the Terps. But there's not like a ton of playmaking. There's not a ton of big plays. And he feels like a guy that you can replace, to be honest, I would say, for Maryland football. But experience sometimes you can't teach. Leadership sometimes you can't teach. And sometimes that's hard to do. And so sometimes the more intangible stuff like leadership, like playing a guy that's been in the Maryland system for a while and those type of things, a guy that's going to make sure that everybody else when he's on the field is where they need to be. Those are some of the things that you are going to lose by losing a guy like Goate, just because he's been at Maryland for so long and he's been playing high-level, solid football for Maryland football for a while now. But as terms of his football talents, I don't think that you're losing anybody that's like irreplaceable or something that's going to kill us. And that's to be completely honest. And that's no slight to Goate, because I think he's a good player. And I'll be interesting to see kind of where he ends up. I don't know exactly what will happen with him. I don't know exactly how he will end up, where he will end up. I don't know exactly why he transferred. I have a couple of different reasons why. But it'll be interesting the type of school he ends up. Is he kind of going to end up at a Power 4 type of program without the Pac-12, I guess you say Power 4, or is he going to go somewhere a little bit more low-key? It'll be interesting to see where Goate ends up being for Maryland, well, not for Maryland football anymore, but for wherever he ends up being at. But to me, now that he's gone, we have to move on and we have to look at this roster and say, how do we replace Goate? And here's the thing. This is why I kind of expecting why he left, or kind of my thought on it was I watched the Maryland spring game and Goate was playing with the second team defense, which I think is pretty interesting that he was with the second team defense. Because think about it. He's been a player that's played a lot for Maryland football. He's an experienced guy. It's weird to have a guy like that playing with the second team defense going against the second team offense, because he's a guy that's played for a while, and it felt a little bit disrespectful. I was kind of like, why? There was a couple of guys that were on the second team. I was like, are they trying to prove a point? Have they not been playing well in practice? I don't know exactly, but there was a couple guys in the Maryland spring game that were on the second team offense and defense. Like Octavian Smith was on the second team offense, and I'm like, why is he on the second team offense? There's no way that kid should be on the second team offense. I think Goate was on the second team defense, and I understand we were deep at linebacker. It seems to keep on getting less and less deep, but I still wouldn't have him where what he's done for the program and his experience and him just knowing the system. I don't know why you would put him on the second team defense. So that's kind of one reason why I was like, maybe that's part of why he was in the portal, is because he wasn't going to get as much time as he wanted to. Maybe he wants to go somewhere and just play every single snap, where there's probably going to be some opportunities for him to be able to do that. Maybe at a smaller type of school, maybe not a Big Ten type of school or an ACC or an SEC, one of those conferences, but he might be able to go somewhere and play every single snap. In Maryland football, he wasn't going to do that. We just don't do that right now. I don't know why, but like, and even if we did, I don't know if he's in our starting two, to be honest. To me, it was really Hippolyte and Wheatland, and then I saw Goate as kind of the next guy up, but he still was going to play. But maybe he wants to go somewhere where he can play every snap. He doesn't have to rotate, because there is something to be said for that. It allows a guy to get in rhythm. It allows him to make plays. It's hard to make big-time plays when you're coming in and out every feels like, and that's kind of what Maryland football has done. And so maybe he wants to go somewhere and play every single snap, and he doesn't want to be kind of in the middle of the linebacker room playing some, but also not playing like a ton of time, but getting a solid time. Maybe he wants to go somewhere and just play every single snap and show that in his last year that he can be a high-level player. And maybe he just feels like his dream might be the NFL, and he feels like, I can't reach that here at Maryland because I'm not going to get enough chances to be able to do that. And I think that's completely fair. I think the spring game, him not playing all the snaps, I think those are two things that made me to believe that that might be the reason that he's transferring. But obviously there could be something completely different. He's from Florida, so I don't know if it's anything, if he'll go back to a school in Florida. I don't know exactly. But my thing is that those are kind of my best guesses for why he's leaving. The second team defense in the spring game was really weird, and just how we haven't probably appreciated him as much as he probably deserves, because he's a good football player. But back to my point of saying that I think we're okay without him, to be completely honest. We're thinner at linebacker for sure now. Definitely thinner. But we have a couple of young players in that room that I really, really like. And you start with the non-young player in Ruben Hippolyte. Ruben Hippolyte now I think plays a little bit more than he probably was. Like I said, Maryland likes to play different guys. But Ruben Hippolyte was third team All Big Ten last year at linebacker. And so we still have him in that linebacker room. He's going to be one of the best returning linebackers in the Big Ten. And then he also brings a lot of experience, and he's been in College Park, it feels like, forever now, and he has a chance to have a really good season. But now we're looking at it's a little bit thinner, but it still feels like we have guys that can play. You think about Caleb Wheatland probably is going to be a starter now for sure. Some people kind of told me that Goate would start. Some people said Caleb Wheatland would start. I always thought that it was Wheatland. Wheatland seems to have always had the edge over Goate since he's been at College Park. So I think Wheatland's a starter now. And Wheatland's been getting time since he's been a freshman. So Wheatland starting at linebacker is not a problem at all. He's been playing a lot. And last year, I argued at times he was one of our best linebackers, if not our best linebacker at times. He's a pretty good player, I would say, for Maryland football. And he makes a lot of different types of play. So I think we're fine because we have Wheatland as well as Hippolyte starting. And then I like some of our younger guys in that linebacker room as well. You think about a guy like Wingate is a pretty good player that I think will be good. Daniel Wingate, I think he's a good player who's going into his sophomore year. And then also who was a freshman last year who I've been waiting to kind of want to see more, Michael Harris. I also really like his game, the sophomore. I think he's going to be a really good player in that inside linebacker room. So honestly, Michael Harris was a 4-star. So I'm kind of looking at it as like, okay, Goate's gone, but it's like it gives us a chance to kind of look forward to the future, get some of those younger guys ready, whether that was Wingate, whether that's Harris. And then I feel pretty confident in the starters as well to maintain that good linebacker room play. And yeah, we're a little bit thinner, and it's a loss in experience and what Goate has brought to the Maryland program. But I don't think the loss honestly kills us, and I don't think it'll hurt very much in terms of football production on the field. That's kind of my opinion on it. I do still think it's a loss that we had to talk about. And it's kind of a mystery why exactly he transferred after just being in College Park forever now. Maybe a change of scenery could be good for him. I don't know exactly. Let me know what you guys think about it. But Maryland just landed 2 new football commits in their 2025 class. I will give my thoughts after this ad from LinkedIn. These days, new potential hires can feel like high-stakes wagers for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help find the right people for your team faster and for free. A lot of people need jobs right now, and if you want to find someone amazing for your company, LinkedIn Jobs helps find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So Maryland football gets 2 commits after their official visits, and there should be a couple more to come, I would think. But these 2 guys are big commits, and literally these guys are tall human beings, probably 2 of the tallest average heights that you'll get from 2 commits. I don't know, even in the entire country. Like, these guys are borderline. I'm thinking they're basketball kids coming in. Obviously, you're going to have some tall kids playing football, but these guys are some big kids for sure for Maryland football, and a couple of pretty big-time commits, 2 interesting type of commits for Maryland football. And I want to start with the local kid coming from Calvert Hall College, who has a chance to be a really good player for Maryland football in the future. And I like this kid's game a lot. Calvert Hall is in Baltimore, Maryland, so he is a local type of guy, not too far away from College Park at all, about an hour away, and decided to stay in Maryland. And this kid is JT Taggart. He looks like a beast, honestly, this Taggart kid. He's listed as an athlete, but he's really going to play tight end at the next level. And when I say that these 2 commits are huge, JT is 6'7" at the tight end spot. 6'7", 225. So right away, I see 6'7", 225, and I'm like, yeah, that's a kid that we're going to want. That's a kid that probably has a lot of upside, and you watch his film and you watch his tape and you say, yeah, this kid has a chance to be something pretty big time at the next level once he gets going at 6'7", 225. And I think this is a potential guy that we look at and we're like, okay, he's only a 3-star. He's rated as he's not rated super highly, definitely pretty solidly. 68th tight end, 35th player in Maryland. But he's a guy that we could look at when he gets to College Park and say, how are we able to just get this guy kind of not easily? I don't want to say we get this guy easily, but how did this guy not have more big time offers? How did this guy not have more big time college coaches wanting him? How was he only ranked as a 3-star? Whatever. This is that type of guy that I'm telling you could end up being that type of player for Maryland football. At 6'7", 225, he's the definition of a guy that can go up and get it. And if he just learned how to run routes a little bit better and stuff like that, I think he's going to be able to just moss different guys because of how big he is. I saw a clip of him absolutely mossing. I guess it would just whoever was covering. I'm not sure if it was a linebacker or corner. It was a clip online, but he's just absolutely going up and mossing over somebody. And so he's going to be able to do that. He's going to be a red zone threat for sure for Maryland football. And our tight end room needs some depth right now. So getting a guy like this, it's important to be able to recruit, even though they still have a year in high school football. But it's important to kind of get some of these new guys in. Preston Howard is 6'6". But he's not as tall as this kid at 6'7". It looks like he says on 247 he also played basketball. So I think this kid is going to be a pretty good athlete for us at 6'7", 225. Definitely the type of guy that we want. And then also another local commit. Those are always important. It's important to keep these guys in our backyard. We want to keep getting the local commits. That's going to be one of the most important, if not the most important thing when we talk about recruiting is Maryland getting DMV guys. And right now we've been getting DMV guys. So that's a pretty big time thing for Maryland football. So I'm excited to see what JT can do. And maybe we'll have an interview maybe on Locked on Terps coming up with him eventually, try to get him on here. But before I move on to the next player, some of his other offers, I know you guys like to see this. Some of his other offers included Charlotte, Colorado with Dion's always interesting, Eastern Kentucky, Florida A&M, and he also had some other interests. Went on a visit to Indiana. Says he's an offer from Louisville. It says from Purdue and West Virginia as well. Miami too. So he had some other offers. It looks like, and he's a pretty good player. And the next player I want to talk about is an offensive lineman and Ben Beimer. Okay, so when I say these guys, JT was 6'7", right? When I say these guys are huge, Ben Beimer is listed at 6'8" on 247, 6'8", 300 pounds from Lakeland, Florida. So we've been able to recruit in Florida at a pretty high level. And so this kid is a huge type of, he's pretty big at 6'8", 300 pounds. And he's our newest commit. And so he's another offensive lineman that seems to have a pretty good ceiling, a pretty good player with his size. And so he's going to be definitely a little bit of a work in progress, like all these linemen are, with getting stronger, getting bigger, getting ready to play at the college level. But getting a kid like this is a pretty big deal. He's listed as the 135th offensive tackle in the class and 209th player in Florida. And some of his other offers included Duke, Arkansas State, FAU, FIU, Georgia Tech, it says. Syracuse offered him, Coastal Carolina, so he definitely had plenty of other interest and offers. So it's good to go into Florida. That's been one of the main spots we've liked to go into and get different players. So it's pretty cool to see a guy like this. 2 commits land for Maryland, and expect more to come for Maryland football. Talia Tungavailoa signs with a CFL team. Let's talk about it. I'll talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. Summertime means baseball and the NBA Finals and more, and you can bet on all of it on FanDuel. Before the NBA Finals is done, you guys have to get on FanDuel. Whether you want to bet on Luka Doncic over or Kyrie Irving over, or you want to bet the Mavericks to come back down 2-0 and win the to win the series, whatever you want to do. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park in the MLB. There's a lot of good baseball on today. There's baseball on every single day. If you want to bet on that, make sure you get on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So Talia Tagovailoa, we've talked about this a little bit, but it officially came out that he is signed in the CFL, and I think this is a good fit for Talia, and I'm going to be interesting to see what he does in the CFL. He signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I'm not going to act like I know a ton about the CFL. I did a little bit of research about it before I came on here to talk about it, but more I'm going to take the perspective of Talia. And we know that he tried in a couple training camps in the NFL and it didn't work out, and I think that's completely okay. I think this could put him in the map and do a couple different things. One, there's plenty of CFL players that take a year or two in the CFL and get that kind of confidence and get that confidence that they can play professional football, that they can play at this level. Obviously, it's not the same level as the NFL or even close, but that they can play, and then they get invited to a training camp, and then they put themselves on the map that way. And I think Talia could do that. He could play well with the Hamilton Tigers, and then next year he could be in somebody's camp again, playing better than he probably performed when he was at a couple of camps this year where it sounded like he struggled at times. And so I think him going to CFL route could help him reach the NFL. I think that's entirely a possibility. There's a ton of players that go from the CFL into NFL training camps, and a couple will make NFL rosters. And so I'm looking at it like that as a potential route to the NFL for Talia. But it's also just one thing that's just cool because those games you can watch, or you can watch on TV. So you can watch the CFL. You can watch Talia play in the CFL, which I think is pretty cool. Not a ton of people watch it, but it might be better for us Maryland fans who love Talia and have loved that what he brought to the program and led Maryland to new heights as the all-time Big Ten passing leader, which is still a humongous accomplishment with some of the greats that are in that have come through the Big Ten. And so we just want to appreciate Talia. We just want to continue to be able to watch him. And so he's going to be able to play in the CFL where we're going to be able to watch him. Or in the NFL, realistically, even if he somehow found a way onto an NFL roster or in a training camp or on a practice squad or whatever it may be, he probably wasn't going to end up playing at all. And so we're going to actually be able to watch him play in the CFL, even though obviously I'd rather him be on an NFL roster, and I'm sure he'd rather be on one too, but I get to actually watch Talia play football, he's going to be able to show everyone his talent, his throwing motion, and I'm excited to be able to do that because I'm going to be able to talk about him playing in the CFL. I'll be interested to see how he translates, how kind of like Coach Loxley's, I don't want to say Coach Loxley's offense translates, but how well he kind of just picks up the CFL game. I don't know how it compares to college football. I would like to think it's somewhat comparable to the Big Ten. I mean, I feel like playing Ohio State or something like that would probably be harder than playing some of these CFL teams, I would guess, but I could be wrong. Let me know. I'm thinking like playing Michigan or Ohio State is got to be harder than playing some of these CFL teams, or I could be wrong. So I think he's built for it. I think he's ready for it. I think he's ready for the spotlight, and you never know what opportunities it can open up. All you want to do is be playing. You want to be playing, and you never know what can happen. Obviously, everyone's going to compare him to his brother, Tua, who is a starter for the Dolphins and is a really good quarterback, a top 15-ish type of quarterback in the NFL. But for Talia, it's not going to be the same route. He doesn't have that same type of talent, to be completely honest, but he's still a really good football player who's going to be able to show his talent. And I think that the CFL, he's going to be able to do some pretty big things. I'm guessing he's going to be a starter. I don't really know exactly how it works, but I hope he's a starter. But it's going to be interesting thing to see him in the CFL and see what he can do. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. And Maryland basketball just posted a couple of pictures and shows that they're back. I'm excited to start talking about that as well. But thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.